Hi Winederlusters! I'm jumping in with a special bonus episode following my recent trip to Japan.
Welcome to the Winederlust podcast. My name's Jeanene and I run a wine events business in Canberra. But my real passion is travel and my bucket list is to travel to every wine region in the world. In this series, I'll be exploring some regional Aussie wine destinations. I'll give you some tips whether you're planning a romantic getaway, a girls' weekend, or you're dragging the kids along. So pour yourself a glass and let's get exploring.
It's not a place you think about when you think about wine, but that has changed. Japan is a wonderful country. I lived and worked there for a couple of years in the 90s and early 2000s. When I lived there, in regards to alcohol, the locals loved their whiskey and Suntory was the big brand, and it still is. The lager beer was also very good, and this continues to be true too. I recall sake being served hot, which I wasn't really a fan of at the time. Back then there was this chuhai, which is like alcohol sold in a can, and I'd get the lychee flavoured one, so there was lots of different fruit flavours, a bit like the alcopops we have. But things have changed. Japanese whiskey has become really prestigious. Sake has become really popular, and especially drinking it cold or at room temperature. And there are some really beautiful sake with lovely floral botanical notes around. I didn't see any chuhai cans when I was there, and Japan is producing wine, which is what I'm going to chat to you about today. There are 4 main growing wine regions in Japan. Yamanashi, this is the closest to Tokyo. It's also the biggest wine producing region. It's the biggest producing area, making about 30% of Japan's wines. It has volcanic soil, and the most famous grape variety grows well here. It's called Koshu, and it's a dry white wine. In my research, I did come across a full day tour that takes you to 5 wineries in the region, plus a lunch. This was about 45,000 yen per person, or at time of recording, about 450 Australian dollars per person. The next largest producing wine region is Nagano. Many people know of this region as the Winter Olympics were here in '98, and many Aussies in particular visit here for ski trips. It's got beautiful mountains, and the altitudes and temperature swings from the snow to the summer are really good for growing grapes, such as Merlot and Pinot Noir. About 25% of Japan's wines are produced here. The next one surprised me. It's actually Hokkaido. Makes about 17% of production. So Hokkaido is that island right at the top of Japan. People know it for the ice sculpture in February and for the snow. They make aromatic cool climate wines like Pinot Noir, Chardonnay and sparkling. The next one surprised me. It was Yamagata Prefecture. This is a small prefecture in the north of Japan. I actually lived here in the 90s in a little town famous for chessboards. There was no wine back then when I lived here. But now it's known for its intense fruity reds and white wines along a river, the Megami River, which is protected by mountains. So I look forward to returning to Yamagata and checking out their wine. But in this episode, I'm going to talk to you about Nagano. This is where I spent my holiday. We went to the town of Nozawa Onsen, which is very popular with Aussies and other tourists for the ski season. It's a great little village, lots of accommodation, some great restaurants. There's a Swiss bakery and a fantastic Italian restaurant that we went to. But when it comes to wine, my favourite shop was a little bottle shop in town called Naganoya, which means a shop of Nagano. They offer sake tastings, like 3 sake for 500 yen, which is about $5. And these are really good. They were served at room temperature and they had little explanations in Japanese, which you could use your Google Translate to look at. And they're all very different, but they were really good. They also had a huge range of Japanese wine, priced from about $20 a bottle. So it was a really affordable way to dip in and check out different varieties and different ways of how Chardonnay tasted there compared to ones that we were familiar with. There was also an interesting orange Pinot Gris that I tried and had really been left on the skins for a while and was quite savoury. There were some other great varieties I wasn't so familiar with, such as Concordia These descriptions indicated they maybe were a bit on the sweeter side, so I didn't actually buy those. But all the wines I tried were really good, really approachable and easy drinking. The other great thing with Japan is they seem to have lower tax on international wines. So it's also a really great place to check out some French wines as well at a very reasonable price. So if you're in town and you're looking for that bottle shop, the Chuo Terminal bus station, go around the corner, past the kebab shop, turn right, and it's just down the road on your left. So in Nozawa Onsen, there's also a distillery, and it makes gin, and they have 4 different types that you can do a tasting of. And they're also due to release their first whiskey in 2026. This distillery looks like a fairly new operation. It was really classy, modern, a really nice spot to spend an hour or so trying out their gin. There's also 2 breweries in town, Libushi and Yamanama. But one of the highlights I did in Nagano was the wine train. Finding info on this was a little bit difficult, which is why I want to share my experience. And it seems not many foreigners do this, from what I could gather from my wonderful host Fumiko. The wine train only runs on Fridays, Saturdays and Sundays. Tickets go on sale 2 months in advance. And it isn't actually the whole train, it's just one carriage of the electric train that travels between Nagano, which is the main city in the Nagano prefecture, and a small town called Udanaka. Udanaka's popular because it's where those snow monkeys, the national park where they bathe in the onsen, so there's lots of people that visit that. So the wine train is not part of the JR or Japan Rail network. So if you arrive into Nagano, into the JR terminal like I did, and I used my broken Japanese to try and get some instructions of where I needed to go when I was running late. The terminal for the Dentetsu line is like in the basement. So he kind of was like pointed which direction and went down, down, down. And luckily I was able to make it with a couple of minutes to spare. And I was so relieved to make it. So the journey is about 1.5 hours. And not only do you get to try lots of Japanese wines, but there are vineyards and apple orchards all along the way. And I guess I hadn't really thought that the scenery was going to be a big part of the trip as well. Or I didn't realize that there'd be vineyards. It was very picturesque. I went in winter time, so there's the snow-capped mountains, and a lot of the trees were just the bare trees and the vines. But you got to see things like there was like lots of little fans set up in little plots. So I guess when it's warm, they have the fans going. So it didn't have really the rolling vineyards that we're used to seeing. They were like much smaller plots, and some of them were very close to little towns that we were traveling through. So it was really interesting. On the train, we also got a bento box with delicious food to go with the wines. My host Fumiko was so lovely and attentive to all the guests, and she knew some English, and she made me feel very inclusive. So I travelled on my own, left my family to go skiing, and I went off for a little excursion. So when I booked my one seat, it actually booked out the whole section of the 4 seats. So you only get to sit with the people that you book with. During the 1.5 hour journey, there was a stop for a toilet break in the town of Obuse. And this town's quite famous because the artist Hokusei, who's famous for his great wave artwork, lived there for many years. So in a couple of minute break, you have time to pop into the gift store, or like me, you can try your luck at the Lucky Dip vending machine. Instead of a nice scarf or something, I ended up with a little glass fridge magnet, which I was pretty happy with. So for the train, it was about $75 all up, or 7,500 yen, I should say. So my tips when booking is take screenshots as you go. The one thing that concerned me was when I got my reservation email, it didn't note what time the train was going or from what train station. So I was worried that I'd booked the wrong direction accidentally. And when I tried to call to check, they only spoke Japanese. And with my broken Japanese, I felt confident I had booked the right journey. But I actually got someone at the Tourist Information Centre to reconfirm this for me to make sure. Now, if you want a perfect weekend suggestion while you're in Japan, I suggest taking the wine train from Nagano, then spend a night in Udanaka and return the following day. Attached to Udanaka is a town of Yamanouchi, which I noted is famous for its hot springs. So we stayed in a traditional hotel here. So I had the beautiful tatami floor, the chairs on the ground, and at night they, when you were having dinner, they rolled out your futon for you. And it was just a really wonderful experience. There was an option to have dinner at the hotel, and the food was very traditional, it was beautifully presented, and there was a lot of it, and it was really good. And we had a private dedicated server, and she was so lovely. The hotel also provides guests with a key to access 9 onsen in town. So onsen are like the traditional bathing places. These were almost like bathtubs for people before they had them in their house. So some of them can be very small. You go in, there's the process of showering or cleaning yourself first and then relaxing. And as noted, the town is near Jigokudani Monkey Park, where the infamous snow monkeys that bathe themselves in hot springs live. So while you can do the wine train back, if you wanted more options, the train goes a couple of times a day. And if you're booking more than a month in advance, I would recommend spending 300 yen, so about $3, to reserve your seat. And if you're quick enough, book the very front row of the train. This electric train is really unique. The driver is actually in a little compartment above the guests. So when he comes in, he accesses a little hutch, pulls down the ladder, and up he goes. So there's an opportunity for guests to sit right at the front of the train. And this was really cool. The same beautiful scenery on the way back, but you're right at the front of the train. This ticket was about $20 or 2,000 yen. So the electric train, or the Dentetsu line, offers other unique experiences too. When I was looking at the website, they had a sake train and a beer train. I've put a link to their website in the show notes. I did investigate trying to visit some wineries, but this seemed a little bit more difficult, particularly without a car. But overall, considering this was a family holiday, I was pretty happy with the wine explorations and excursions that I was able to do. I do think that this is an area that Japan will expand more on in the future, and I look forward to returning and exploring more of their wines. If you're curious to check out what all this looks like, head to my YouTube channel, where you can listen to the podcast with all the imagery. And until next time, happy wine travels.
Thank you so much for listening. You can subscribe now to get each episode as they drop. You can also check out this podcast on YouTube and see pictures of the region and the people I've spoken to. Go to winederlust.au, that's winederlust.au for everything discussed today. You can also subscribe to my newsletter to hear all about my upcoming events and other news. Till next time, happy wine travels.